everybody. Thanks for coming on this gorgeous day that there are many things that we would all rather be doing. For those of you who don't know about SPED NET, we're a nonprofit in Fairfield County. We've been going for about 28 years. We started in Wilton as a group of parents who needed to learn about their kids on the spectrum and with ADD and learning disabilities, and we knew absolutely nothing about how to parent them, so we started bringing in speakers. And after all this time, we are still bringing in speakers. We have webinars. We run phenomenal support groups, one for moms with ADD and executive functioning issues, another for parents of neurodivergent kids, and the third for senior caregivers who have dependent children, adult children. We have a fabulous website, and one of the most important things we do is we videotape all our presentations. So folks know they will get a copy of the presentation and be able to watch it, share it with their friends or spouse or their team or their kid, depending on what it is. And this particular presentation is about combining therapies with nature and animals in an amazing place that my partner and I went to see and just fell in love with. And we thought that given that spring and summer was coming up, folks would really benefit from hearing about how these therapies are put together in natural settings. And we have the whole crew here who are going to do a presentation and then take your questions after. You guys will introduce yourselves.
Absolutely. Sure. Good morning. My name is Julie Raposo. I'm a mental health counselor.
I'm Sophia Skolnick, an occupational therapist.
So we're here today to tell you a little bit about nature and animals and how we utilize that in our therapies. Show of hands, who feels calmer when they go outside? Who feels a change in their body just being outside, outdoors? Anyone ever notice children when they go outside, maybe they're having a rough day, a tantrum, a meltdown, they go outside, it's kind of like a reset. You might see their breathing change, right? You might see their attention change. You might see them starting to play differently. Anybody's kid get really excited or light up when they see an animal, especially one that's not theirs, right? They get to interact with them, they get super excited. So as therapists, we've noticed this too. And we've decided to explore how we can take a child out of a traditional therapy environment and bring them into an environment that naturally encourages them to engage more and engage differently, and the benefits that that brings. So today we're going to explore a little bit about how nature and animals is going to affect our brain and how it changes our nervous system. Why do children often connect easier with animals than they do adults? Why is playing taking a break from learning when it really is what should engage the children to learn and prepare them, right? Playing is kind of where learning happens. And we're going to talk a little bit about how PT, OT, speech, and mental health services are enhanced by being in natural settings. So by the end of the presentation, we're hoping that you guys walk away with a new perspective on development, a better understanding of how our environment can enrich us and how we can use that in our therapies and our learning. Maybe some practical ideas that you could bring home to your own families to implement at home, but most importantly, a greater appreciation for what can happen when we step outside of our traditional settings. Okay. So, when you feel stressed out, where do you go? Anybody? Go outside maybe, have a cup of coffee in the sun, go for a walk or a hike, right? I don't think anyone's gonna say they go to a windowless room with fluorescent lights to kind of reset after being stressed. So, our bodies instinctively know this, right? We know that we feel better when we're outside, and our brain has evolved to feel that way. So why not with our children? Why not with our own selves when we're trying to be kind to ourselves? When we go outside, when we take our children outside, we see the stress decrease, we see curiosity increase, We see movement that becomes more natural. We get more engagement, more focus. So the question isn't whether nature helps children, it's why are we surprised that it helps children? I'm going to tell you a little bit about a client that's been at the farm for a little over a year with me. When this client was in school, 9 years old, had some trauma related to school, ended up becoming school avoidant. They had to take the kid out of school. They were not socializing with peers. They were having meltdowns. They tried a ton of medication with horrible side effects, suicidal ideations, depression, aggression. The kid was unable to attend even 50% of the hours at an outplacement facility. Family vacation down to Florida, they found a farm. The kids started to get excited to go to the farm to engage with the horses. So when they came home, they sought to find an environment to replicate that. On the farm, this kid has no pressure to make eye contact, to talk to humans. We connect with the animals, especially the horses. That's all they wanted to do when they first started, was be around the horses. Over the past year, this child now separates from mom easily. They engage not just with our horses, but with our bunnies, our goats, our chickens, our alpaca, transitioning beautifully. There is no hesitation with an unpreferred task that we introduce throughout our sessions. This kid is now being able to succeed at 100% of the hours in their outplacement. They're starting to enjoy, maybe that's a strong word, but they're participating in social activities, playing soccer, doing a social skills group with us. So what changed? Is it being outside? Is it being connected with the animals? What happens when we take our kids out of the traditional environment?
So thinking about the traditional environment, chances are we're all very familiar with some sort of office, clinic, even school-based therapies are often in a hallway or in a closet, not given a lot of priority, not given a lot of space, very little flexibility sometimes with IEPs and how the service is to be delivered. So we're finding and reading and feeling that the indoors aspect of a lot of our profession sort of gets tiring for people. It isn't as motivating as it could be. So that's applicable for any age group, children, adults, older adults, and any sort of population. You know, if you're recovering from a physical injury or you're working with more of a developmental disability trajectory, you're going to want to switch up where you are, especially if you're looking at years and years and years of your life participating in some of these services. We find that a lot of the activities that we tend to prioritize here are very, very structured. Kids are funneled into structured activities. Adults tend to do things that are very structured, and more free-form time, more free play, more relaxing, and more intrinsic, following your intrinsic motivation tends to lead to longer attention spans, more buy-in, more motivation. So it doesn't really matter what the population is. If you are doing something that's meaningful, you're going to want to do it longer. And then also for the therapeutic side of things, we often see a lot of contrived practice. So, you know, you're running drills, you're practicing something over and over and over again, and you're trying to collect data on that thing, where you're using a flashcard as opposed to talking about something that is really meaningful to that client. So, you know, you can say A is for apple, but if I don't like apples, maybe I'm not going to pay attention for as long as if I'm outside and I find an ant. And ants are very motivating. Ants are doing a million things. There's lots of stuff to watch and talk about and discuss, and you can really dive into whatever the goal is, academically, therapeutically, even within the family, using the interest and what's really relevant to that person at that time. And all of these challenges are easily addressed by just being outside, just getting outside of that typical therapy setting. So the opposite of this is what we're enjoying, what we're seeing, what we're offering. Everybody is aware that nature is good. It seems silly that we're, collecting empirical studies to tell you guys that being outside is very healthy. This is a natural thing. We are all absolutely genetically hardwired to want to be outside. That's a term called biophilia. So working against it seems like too much work. Why work against something when you can work with something? We should, be making it easier for ourselves. Another interesting way to think about this is you will get better providers when your providers are happy and not stressed and outside and with animals and in an environment that is motivating for them as well. So, my favorite statistic is 50% of OTs are below the median, right? If we can increase the people who are liking their job and feeling seen and appreciated and comfortable physically, they're going to make better therapeutic choices for their clients. So we know we can measure that there are physiological benefits to being outside and to being near animals. We can see lower stress hormones. We can see lower rates of anxiety, depression. We can see increased attention span, increased just perceived emotional well-being, which is a really neat one, right? It's sort of about what the client feels that they're feeling, which is the most important thing. If they are reporting feeling better in an environment, we should listen to them. We can see improved sensory integration and regulation. Nature tends to be what we're already designed to absorb from a sensory stimuli standpoint, right? So the sounds, we were designed to get those sounds, make sense of them, and then respond and react accordingly. So a lot of people do report being more comfortable, feeling more regulated, more at that just right sort of emotional level to participate in something that might be a little bit challenging for them otherwise. It might be a goal that they really want to address, but we know if they're indoors or in a very structured setting or a very loud place or a chaotic place, it's very difficult to target something that's already hard for somebody. So just reducing the amount of information their brain has to deal with, you can do that by going outside. And then a great one, which is very topical now, is being outside improves your microbiome and the bacteria that's on your skin. A wonderful initiative in Finland just redid the playground surfaces of a lot of early childhood public spaces in that country, and they took away the rubber and the cement and the asphalt and stuff that's man-made, and they just let it be rocks and sticks and dirt and leaves, and within a year they were able to measure improved autoimmune biomarkers for those children. So it has long-term benefits, it has short-term benefits, and you end up being around people who generally report being happier and more ready to learn.
So why animals, right? Who's ever told an animal or a pet something that they probably wouldn't tell another human? I know I have, right? They're safe. Humans have lived alongside animals for thousands and thousands of years, right? We have used animals for generations for transportation, for companionship, protection, food, most importantly, connection. In return, the animals have adapted to understand us, and we have adapted to understand them. When we work with animals, they don't judge us, they don't criticize us, they don't care about our diagnosis, what we look like, that we stutter, that we fidget, that we struggle socially. They show up genuinely, who they are in that moment. They respond. When you are working with animals, it can really make a difference. So why does this matter in therapy? So research shows that consistent work with animals can reduce anxiety, it can lower our physiological stress, it can increase engagement and attention, and it can improve therapeutic rapport. Many kids will stay engaged longer, they want to talk about the animals, they want to work with the animals, so you have their attention for longer. People open up more easy, right? You're not having to look at somebody in the face or make eye contact or sit in a room and expect it to talk, right? You're moving around and conversation just flows. You can tolerate change better. It's fun. So it's easy to move from task to task when the next task is equally as fun and different. It's constantly changing. It's never going to be the same, no matter how many times you come. And it can make it easier to discuss difficult topics. You can use the animals in a way to talk about something that might be challenging, and you can put it back on them. For example, you can confide in a chicken. You can sit and have a conversation with a chicken. You can start to read to a chicken. There's no pressure, there's no judgment, there's no correction, right? It's just fun, and it's different, and it's funny. It's playful. You can just practice. Horses. Horses are a magnificent, powerful, big animals. So working with the horses is exciting. It takes a lot of courage and bravery. And they are the masters of nonverbal communication. Horses can sense every change in our body. They can sense the tension. They can sense a shift in our breathing. They can sense your confidence level, if you hesitate, and they respond. They don't wait for you to be ready. They respond. So what does that teach us? It teaches us about our emotional awareness. We always have to be paying attention to every movement and to where we are present in that moment. Because if we check out, the horse is going to let us know. They're going to shift their energy, and you're going to feel that. It helps us to self-regulate. Horses are patient, and it forces us to be patient also. And it takes a lot of trust. These are 800, 1,200-pound animals, right? They have no problem telling you what they need, and there is no making them do anything. So it's about building a relationship with them, right? Asking questions and hoping that you can learn to understand the questions that they're asking you back. Snuggling a bunny, right? That soft, warm sensation that activates our calming system and our nervous system. It supports our relaxation. It can lower our heart rate, encourage nurturing and connection. Animals don't want us to change to connect. They don't ask us for anything. They connect first, and the change comes next.
So being outside means a lot of physical movement and lots of opportunities to use bodies in ways that might not be available indoors, and this goes across the age range. So we have a lot of pictures of children, but we are always having lots of age ranges at the farm, and we have all of this applies, especially if you're looking at it from a mental health perspective in terms of accessing the inner child, promoting play. A lot of the therapeutic work that older people are doing is sort of tapping back into that. So it's very natural, and the environment encourages that when you're outside and you're investigating, you're exploring, you're discovering, you are curious. You're in a new place that is ever-changing, and so there's always something new to see, to discover. So harnessing that playful energy, regardless of age, really helps our clients and our populations. And sometimes the biggest change is having the adults trust that this is a really good avenue to connect with people through. So trusting that we come hardwired to explore, to discover, to play, to climb. The physical aspect of the farm encourages motor planning, praxis, things that we're doing in OT and PT. You may know them from IEP goals and IFSP goals. These are all skills that in a clinic you may have to set something up so that you can say, well, today I worked on this. Whereas if you're on the farm and the child sees something that's exciting over there, and to get over there, they have to navigate different transitions in the surfaces, different inclines, different grades, rocks that are moving, stuff that's dynamic as opposed to very stagnant like it sometimes is in the clinic. They've addressed their own goal just because they were interested in going somewhere else. So there's a lot of listening to what the client is doing, even if they're not saying anything. It's watching, it's observing, it's that connection, that rapport that allows you to tap into what their goals actually are, even if they're not articulating their goals in the standardized format that we might be accustomed to. groups on the farm. It's wonderful opportunities for mixed ages to learn from one another. It sort of mimics how we evolved in hunter-gatherer bands, where the age ranges were always going to be more spread out, and there was always someone taking charge, there's always someone learning, there's always someone modeling, someone learning how to nurture. These are things that we don't need to tell young people that they will do on their own in a group, given space and time and freedom. So the farm gives us a place to do that, which has been really wonderful to see. We have a lot of opportunities to take risks, and I know many of us are risk averse in all categories, but people need to take risks physically to know where their boundaries are, to know how strong they are, how coordinated they are, how can they navigate certain challenges. And if you're doing it in a place that's relatively safe and supervised, they learn how to deal with failure, deal with success, and transition that over to other environments pretty naturally. Sociologically, animals are very open, so we love commenting on animals in a way that we wouldn't comment on a stranger or an adult that we meet in the world, right? You always say, very comfortable going up to someone's dog in the street, oh, may I pet your dog? Very few of us would say, oh, may I pet your spouse? So tapping into that is what we are doing. So using the openness of the animals to discuss things that might be challenging. Our favorite stuff with the young kids or people working on activities of daily living is these animals are going to the bathroom in front of us everywhere. No apologies. And it opens up all the discussions about interoception. How do we know what these feelings are like in our own body? How do we know when we have to respond to the feeling versus maybe wait and the feeling is not an emergency situation? So they are non-judgmental, but they don't care what we say about them, which is great. We can use them for the jumping off point for all of the very challenging conversations, especially as people are older. You know, the younger kids love to talk about that anyway. They need no excuse, but older people might not want to be talking about that. So the animals allow them in a very safe way. And other than that, we just know that the curiosity, it always comes back to the curiosity, because when someone is interested, curious, and you follow that interest, you will make progress on any goal. You can always put a goal to tag team to their interest.
Okay, hippotherapy. What is hippotherapy? A lot of people say hippo, where'd that come from? That is the Greek word for horse. So a common misconception in hippotherapy is that it's just a riding lesson. You're just riding a horse. But it's so much more than that. It's a modality that physical therapists, occupational therapists, and speech and language pathologists can use. It's a neuro re-education tool. So the horse's movement itself, that's part of the therapy. It's a tool just like an exercise ball that would be used in a session, just like the heat that's applied to you at the end or the beginning of a session, the electrical stimulation, the balance board. That is the horse. The horse is a tool. The movement is a tool. Why? When a horse walks, they have the same pattern and movement as our hips move when we walk. It's a three-dimensional pattern, right? It goes front and back, it goes side to side, and there's rotation. And all three things are happening at the same time. That creates instant response from our body. Our body is having to make hundreds of adjustments every time the horse is moving. Whether we're sitting up taller and addressing our core strength, shifting in the back of the horse to address our balance, postural control, endurance. A lot of these people, when they first mount, cannot tolerate a full 45-minute session on a horse. It might start 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you're increasing incrementally to be able to reach their therapeutic goals. Coordination, asking the clients to cross midline, to reach, to hand something, to bend over, to lean back. Attention, right? They need to pay attention, and their attention span needs to continue to grow to be on the horse. They're paying attention to everything around them, the other people in the arena, their therapist, their horse's reaction, the motor planning, and most importantly, the sensory regulation. When you're on the horse, you're getting different feedback than you would if you were on the ground or in a traditional setting. That repetitive, rhythmic movement, it calms our nervous system, and it improves our focus, and it prepares the brain for learning. That is when the learning happens, when we feel calm and regulated. This can be shifted throughout the session. You can sit sideways to get a whole different feel, different sensory input. You can turn a client backwards. You can ask them to lay down on the horse's back. You can ask them to lay on their stomach on the horse's neck. All of that also requires trust. You need to trust your therapist. You need to trust your team, right? You have somebody walking the horse. You have somebody on your side. You have your therapist. You have your horse. You have 4 people, beings there supporting you during your therapy. And you need to trust that they're going to have your back so you can push. And a lot of times that creates relationship. And that relationship continues off the horse. It's not just about the riding, but the incorporation of the grooming, getting to know the animal, getting to know the team that they're working with, building the confidence to lead the animal and lead the horse around the arena, maybe before or after they get off. The preparation, learning to sequence what comes first when you have to get your horse ready. The caring for the horse, maybe giving them a treat after, making sure they have water on a hot day. So we'll talk a little bit about the different therapies. Speech and language. I'm going to tell you a little story about a client that came to the farm about 3 years ago, 5 years old when they started. Much of the communication at that point was just jargon and sounds. They had very few approximated words. They struggled separating from family, from parents. Fast forward to today, this child has 2 to 3 word phrases. They're making requests and comments about what they're doing in therapy with the animals and with the horses. They're asking questions. They're answering questions. They're greeting staff. They're saying hi to other clients on the farm. They're greeting the horse, their whole therapeutic team. So what changed? It's not just the speech therapy. It's the environment. Speech just isn't just language. It's movement. It's a fine motor skill. It requires core stability. It requires breath control, motor planning. You have to have good attention, regulation. The horse helps build all of these foundations. They help a child to become more communicative. It's more effective. They need to be available for learning, and that's when speech comes in. They need to be regulated, and they need to be engaged. Many kids with speech and language issues also struggle with attention and maintaining focus. They struggle processing information, following directions, transitioning between activities. So hippotherapy, what can it do to help them? It can help with that cognition. Again, that rhythmic movement that you get on a horse. It helps with sensory input, and it can also help organize the nervous system. It can help improve attention and support participation. You can help process information more effectively, and it can help communicate through challenges. You need to have breath control, right? When we're talking, we need to be able to take deep breaths and plan ahead what we're going to say and have enough breath to do that, to speak clearly. We need our postural stability to do that. In horse's movement, it naturally challenges both of those things when they're on the horseback. Nature-based hippo and hippotherapy can also help with the unspoken language. The communication is more than just words. So at the farm, the kids and the people get to practice their nonverbal communication. They're reading body language, picking up on cues that the animals might be giving us. They're making requests to go over to see one animal or go over to a different place. They're taking turns if they're working in a group. They're asking questions. They're observing the social cues, not just amongst the people, but amongst the animals as well. So social skills are easily implemented due to all these number of opportunities that we have in a natural setting and with the animals around. There is unwritten rules that are there that we have to create connection, and that's where we get to explore it. And we get to explore it by expressively communicating and taking turns and getting engagement from not just each other, but from the animals. And it's all because of the context. When we have meaningful context, the children and the people want to engage. And animals and nature give us that.
All right. For occupational therapy, we can be mounted, hippotherapy, or we can be unmounted. So that would be simply nature-based with some of our animals, or equine-assisted if it's around the horse. And both have great benefits. We have sort of an anecdotal study, or an anecdotal story from our experience. We have a pilot protocol, and both are supporting what we are trying to do here. So we have a 4.5-year-old client at the farm who's been there since they were about 2.5, and at that age, you're not allowed to start hippotherapy, so she started unmounted, nature-based therapy, and her therapist reports major gains in terms of social functioning, presented at first with a very flat affect, and now has lots of emotions and emoting that help her interact with peers and adults on the farm, and then her family in her, the rest of her life. Lots of opportunities for peer interaction, self-regulation in the group and then individually. So we are seeing progress in our setting, and then we're also finding studies that support. So a pilot protocol for equine-assisted OT for children diagnosed with ADHD is showing significant improvement in executive functioning, everyone's favorite topic, and regulation, hope perception, and everyday performance. So again, like Julie said, we're not changing a whole lot of the therapy. We are changing our approach, we're changing our environment, we're changing the tools, the modalities to be living creatures, living things, and the dynamic environment that we're operating in. In terms of off the horse, we're addressing praxis and opportunities to learn to move your body very naturally. Things are changing all the time, so you have to be more adaptable than a lot of our clients initially present as. We get practice with ADLs. If you're caring for an animal, you can practice grooming, brushing, toileting, all the things our clients are working on for themselves. It's nice to practice that first on something else. That's, again, much less judgmental, much more forgiving, and may not be as particular as some of the adults around them trying to coach them most of the time. On the horse, it's a high-stakes activity, right? You cannot be on a horse against your will. It won't go well for anybody involved. So that taps into the really core tenet of occupational therapy, that the client has to be intrinsically motivated. If that person wants to be on a horse, everything falls into place because that is their goal. They have selected it, they are motivated. And then we can tap into all the other things that may be challenging in the rest of their life through what they're really enjoying. So that high stakes usually leads to high reward. We're seeing really amazing improvements in a lot of the clients that are on the horse as well as off the horse. It also breaks up a little bit of the repetitive nature of a lot of what we do in clinics. So it is easier to pivot the task onto a different animal, even though it's the same task. It looks different, it feels different, maybe some things are changed. So people tend to be a little more attentive, more engaged for longer because there's just more opportunities for novelty that really gets people interested. From a physical therapy standpoint, we're using the actual movement of the horse's pelvis to retrain, or at least let the client's body experience what walking in a typical gait would feel like. So that's information that some of our clients' bodies have never received. If you've never walked independently, or you've never walked within that range of normal gait-wise, your neurofunctioning, your neurons and the brain pathways have never received that information, and when you're on the horse, you may for the first time be getting that input, which is multi-sensory, right? When you're on a horse, you're outside, you're getting sound, you're getting sight, you're getting proprioception, you're getting the feelings of your muscles and your joints internally. So your body has to work to mush all of those feelings together, process it, and then complete the task at hand, which again is very high stakes. You have to stay on that horse. You have to tell the horse what it's doing. You have to make sure your body is prepared to continue the activity. So we see great improvements in our physical therapy clients. One in particular is an 8-year-old with a diagnosis of Prader-Willi syndrome. A frequent complaint and symptom of that syndrome is scoliosis, very severe scoliosis to the point where a lot of people end up in a back brace. So we've had the client on horseback for 2 years, and they had a checkup with their spine specialist at a hospital down south that specializes in scoliosis and spine and all this stuff. And the parent returned saying that they were told that their scoliosis had actually improved. They had started at 2 degrees away from needing this brace, and after the therapy on horseback, they had improved by 10 degrees. They had straightened their spine by 10 degrees, and they were not required to wear a brace for at least another year. So for that family, that is life-changing, right? That's a kid who doesn't look all of a sudden much different than their peers, doesn't feel uncomfortable wearing this big thing over their clothes or under their clothes. So these are, real life, everyday improvements that people are experiencing from doing something that they also enjoy, which is what we love about it most. So it's not just changing the location, it's changing the experience. Yes?
So it's a little horse? It looks like a really little horse?
We use ponies all the way up to horses. It depends on the size of the rider and the therapeutic. It's actually a very therapeutic choice. The therapist will select a specific horse based on their gait pattern and what they're trying to target with their client. So yes, some of the riders are on more of a pony, which is, a technical term if you're measuring the animal, and some of them are riding larger horses when it's appropriate. But it's really interesting the way we all have our own gait pattern. Each horse has its own gait pattern. So it's not one horse for every person who comes through the door. It's highly personalized based on your temperament, your physicality, your goals, and then all the same things for that horse. So you have a therapist and a team that's really marrying two beings to create an experience that you cannot replicate anywhere else. Certainly not in a clinic. And again, I know we do keep mentioning kids. We tend to have a lot of kids, but you can do this at any age. We are preparing for more ages and more groups and more varied experiences and populations, but the information is absolutely applicable. If you are struggling with a neurological challenge at any age, this might be something that brings you comfort.
Mental health counseling. So mental health counseling is not done on horseback. That is all on the ground with the horses. It's all relationship-based with the horses, with the animals, and nature-based out in the environment. Tell you a little bit about a client that I've been working with for about a year now. When 16-year-old client, when I met them, they were not in school. They were homeschooling due to trauma at school. They were severely depressed, had just been hospitalized for suicidal ideation, severe OCD symptoms, in traditional therapy weekly with a therapist and a psychiatrist, but they needed something different, something that was going to break through. So the client started coming, and we started working with the horses. So this client, over the past year, has demonstrated a tremendous amount of increased confidence. They have been back to school now, starting back in September. They started engaging with peers. They went to senior prom. They're graduating. They got accepted into college. Their symptomology has reduced tremendously with their OCD, anxiety, and depression. They're making eye contact. And what changed? It was the horse. It was the environment. Not because horses fix everything, but because they gave us an opportunity to learn about relationships, to learn about safety, to have meaningful experiences. These mental health services look so different from session to session. Whether you are sitting and grooming a horse and learning how to understand nonverbal communication, watching the horse's ears, finding that place where the horse enjoys being scratched, to when you're going out on a walk and all of a sudden it's a cool, breezy day and that horse has a personality and is feeling good, right? That stress level rises in us, the horse feels that, so how do we manage that? What do we do? How do we regulate ourselves so we can regulate the horse, that co-regulation? What are some of the things that we can do to get the focus on us and to safely continue to work with the horse? It forces us to be present, and it forces us to be flexible. We have a plan that day, but that horse might have a different plan. So what do we do? How do we adjust? It gives us the opportunity to explore these things without it being personal, right? It becomes about the horse, and that relates back to us without even having to say it. It helps us to problem solve, to be creative in our thinking on how to accomplish a task, and it creates resilience because it might not go right the first time or the second time or the third time, right? So talk about frustration tolerance, we gotta work through that. Horses don't care. They don't label us. They don't care about our diagnosis. They just respond, and they respond honestly and in that moment. They force us to put boundaries. Again, they are big animals. We cannot let them walk all over us, so we have to be strong and make sure that our communication is clear, and then also be aware of what they're saying back to us so we can interact with them safely. It helps clients to create trust. You have to trust that big animal that you're working with, to create boundaries, explore what that looks like, how we do that, to work on teamwork. You're working together with another sentient being, right, to accomplish tasks, and coping skills. So horses are naturally regulating. Their hearts are 10 times bigger than us, ranging from 9 to 10 pounds. And that electrical field that heartbeat generates can be felt feet away from the animal. So even if the client isn't ready to work directly with the animal, just being around them can reduce our heart rate, can reduce our blood pressure, can make us feel safer. Can't tell you how many clients say they feel safe in a paddock with a loose horse. I don't think that's something that can really be understood until you experience it. To feel safe around an 1,000-pound animal that is loose to go and come and do what they please in that moment. So just being present with them can have a therapeutic event. The power of a metaphor, right? We get to experience these things, and we can draw metaphors from what we're seeing, and we can explore anxiety, trauma, how we build relationships without talking directly about it. And clients can enjoy the experience of having to work through an obstacle course, having to catch a horse in a paddock using a halter, having to struggle if a horse is having a little bit of separation anxiety that day. They don't want to leave their paddock mate, right? Now you're separating two friends. How do we help them work through that? And how can we apply this to our own lives? The conversation becomes safe because it's about them. And then we can bring it back to ourselves at a different time. Sometimes it's just easier to talk to a horse when we're not ready to talk about ourselves. So we want to share a little bit about what we do at Ridgebury Farm. You heard us talk about some of the therapeutic services that we offer, right? We offer physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech and language pathology, and mental health counseling, nature-based and animal-assisted. We also have a wonderful wellness horsemanship program, and that is for clients who might not really be looking for therapy, but still want to benefit from the therapeutic nature of being on a farm and being around the horses and learning how to take care of them, learning how to work with them, learning how to ride with them. We also provide nature-based child programming, early childhood programming, and that is an opportunity for our young kids, 32 months to 5, to come and explore and learn on the farm in a natural environment. They have tasks that they take care of the animals, they take care of our bunnies, our barnyard, they go down to the barn and help with chores around there. They get to explore the property and see everything that the beauties of nature brings to us. And we have a lot of community-based programs that we offer, a chance for people to come to the farm to experience, again, that healing power of nature, to feel one with the family.
And our goal is to create a community. It's not just to be a therapeutic clinic where people come and they get their service and they leave. We want to capitalize on the environment and the people and the feeling of belonging that a lot of people will benefit from and enjoy experiencing. So we use the fact that the farm doesn't look like traditional therapy to, you know, remind people that there's reduced stigma and there are other things going on. Not everyone is there for therapy, direct therapy. There are people there for community activities. There are people there because they want to be. There are people there volunteering. There are people there working. We have such a range of activities going on at all times that you sort of just blend in and you feel like you're part of this whole bubble that exists and that really isn't judgmental because everybody is doing something, and then we don't have to talk about everything that everybody is doing. So the one goal that unites everyone is that they're there because they want to be and because they are contributing to the farm. Someone is there to take care of the rabbit, someone is there to lead the horse, to volunteer for one of these sessions. We have community programming where people can bring their entire family for something, for concerts, for festivals. So it creates this environment that really is positive and supportive and a network of people, which is what SPED NET is trying to do from day one, right? Is connect people so that you always have another reference point, another resource, another person to check in with. And that is really what bolsters a lot of goal achievement, having a community around you while you're working on some of these things that are incredibly challenging for us. So that is Ridgebury Farm, quickly. And we open it up to any questions or comments or any, yeah?
We do, absolutely. So we have junior volunteers that start at 16, so they would go through the same process, and we do have a lot of teens that come and volunteer. They come, they'll go through training with our barn manager to learn about how to take care of the horses. We'll of course ask if they have interest in helping out in the barnyard or with the smaller animals, and then they can sign up to come and help on the farm. I mean, we are there from 7 a.m. to 6 to 7 p.m., 7 days a week. So whatever time they have available and they would love to commit to the farm, there's always work to be done. We have a herd of 21 horses. We have 3 sheep, 3 goat, 20 chickens, 2 alpaca, 16 bunnies. So enough work to go around.
And how much time commitment are you looking for?
We are flexible to work within your schedule. So if you have a team that's available 2 hours a week, amazing, come help out. If they want to come several times a week, even better. We could always use an extra set of hands. Yeah.
What's the history of the horses in terms of their, are they later in life? Do you adopt them? Like, what is that herd of 21 look like?
It's a variety. So they range in age, in breed, and background. Some of our horses were rescued. Some of our horses were donated. Most of our horses are on their second chapter. They've had, other jobs in the past, whether they were show and competition horses or work horses or personal horses for trail use. But what makes them all appropriate for the farm is their personalities, that they want to be there, that they are engaged in the humans, and they are giving the choice to be there, right? Our equine director is an amazing equestrian with a lifetime of experience, and she definitely creates a program that is individualized in every horse. And if that horse doesn't want to participate, then they're not participating. But our horses are happy, and they are, if you could see them with our people, they are magnificent creatures, and they love their jobs.
It's good to hear. So Mounted Troop is right in our backyard here.
Mm-hmm.
And I know my son participated there. It was, he was little. It was the color of the horse that he would be attracted to. But the size of the horse and the mounting, everything was like very flexible, which I just wanted to see if that's the same kind of environment. It sounds like it is. Because there's so much
Absolutely.
that goes into that chemistry and energy that they feel to begin with.
Yeah. And people who are coming for both therapeutic services as well as wellness services, meaning they're not there for therapy and maybe they're working on just working with the horses, they're not required to get mounted. There's actually a lot of work that gets done on the ground to build that relationship, to build the trust and the confidence. And we have clients that might be treated in a nature-based groundwork setting for weeks or months before they're ready to mount. And then when they mount, they're there for 5 or 10 minutes and they're ready to get off. So
We transitioned to just the groundwork because it was just more meaningful and purposeful for his, physical, productivity. And I think
Sure.
being able to check things off like a whiteboard, you're
Yep.
checking like these 5 things. And in an atmosphere, that was a wonderful, wonderful program. So, and also the question in terms of the length of the sessions, because it is a little, I love this, it's a little bit of a distance, so some from our town here. So in terms of session time or afterwards, is there still time to roam on the farm? Because, I say this because
Yeah.
it's a journey, right? So
Sure.
you're going and then it's like a 30-minute or 45-minute session, it's right, it's a lot. So what does that look like? And can you build on that over time and
Yeah.
can you hang out with the farm afterwards for, safety and fun, of course?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we want this to be an area where the family wants to come and spend time. So session lengths are about 45 minutes for PT, OT, and speech, and an hour for mental health counseling. Often clients will come a little bit early or stay behind. We have a lot of green spaces where families can hang out on the front lawn or down by the pond. We are a therapy facility, but when therapy services are not happening in a designated area, you are more than welcome to spend time with the animals. There's plenty of space to enjoy the bunnies and the goats and the sheep and greet some more horses. So absolutely, there's time and ways to stretch out your stay. Yeah.
Do you bring your program to other stables?
No. Right now, we stay on our farm and we operate, and there are a lot of other programs that you might see therapeutic riding, or you might see people using the horses in some kind of therapeutic nature, and there is a place for all of that. What makes us a little bit different is that we are all licensed therapists providing our therapeutic services, so we're working on the same goals that we would be working in a clinic. We are just using our creativity and our space to do it differently.
What's your pricing per hours and per session versus like regular
Right now, we are a out-of-network provider, so if you have out-of-network benefits, you can, submit to your insurance for reimbursement. Our therapeutic service costs right now are $250 a session. If you're coming for our wellness program, that price varies depending on the level of experience our instructors have. So we have a variety of instructors that have different backgrounds and experience levels. It also varies depending on the length of the session and what time of day and when it's coming. So it ranges in price there. And our community programming events also range depending on, are you coming, is it a 1 week, is it a one-off event? So a lot of the pricing can be found on our website, and you can definitely email us for more specific details if you have specific things in mind. Hi.
Hi, in the beginning of the presentation, there was a slide about benefits of being in nature, including integration and all things that don't surprise me as someone who works with children. I just wondered if you were aware of or using research that supports those particular conclusions. Is it based on, because there's a general consensus that the statements that you've used, yes, everybody who works with children is staying outside and working outside sees that. Do you know of any
Yeah.
research that gets to that?
Yeah, we have sources for each of our bullet points. So there are we can forward the empirical, the list of the empirical articles. Yes, there are people researching this, and we are, it's sort of happening at the same time. We are feeling that it's good, it's happening, we're doing it. It's certainly not detracting from anyone's therapy. And then concurrently, there is research that supports all of the things that we are doing and saying. Yeah.
To see who was talking here. Because I was gonna ask the same question, because to get, I mean, there's practicality in this, right? To get
Yes.
insurance support and to get school support, sometimes for families that can't do 200 for 30 minutes, you need that set of clinical information, because sometimes they don't know, or it's helpful, you know, it's helpful to say, here's what we're seeing.
Yes.
Here's what we're doing.
Yes, and here's the research to support it. And then what's great about our facility is that we're able to offer mounted, unmounted, animal-assisted, group, individual. You know, we can usually find a lane to work with someone based on, you know, their existing needs and what they have as resources.
Can I just add to, hello everybody, I'm Katy, I'm the executive director, so you guys are awesome for that. One thing that is so beautiful about having this community too is we have had parents who have been successful in getting IEPs for their children to come, whether it be for the school avoiding support or for OT that is most beneficial for their child on horseback. So by having those parents who've been successful, now we can sort of pick their brain to see like what was the support that's really needed in order to convince the powers that be to sign off on it. So again, it just we're a young organization. We've only been around for 5 years, but in those 5 years, we have such a broad net of people that we've had the opportunity to work with, both as clients and as therapists. And now even having an advocate who is an unofficial part of the team, so she comes and has conversations with our parents as needed to help them understand, the best conversations to have with peers and PTs. So I guess just as a side note, that's great. Okay. One quick thing too, the wellness, in case it didn't come out loud here, those are what we call our lessons. So a lot of times concurrently, a sibling will come do a wellness session, which is a typical writing lesson, while the other sibling is getting their formalized therapy, so that mom and dad can have a moment of respite and a mountain pile and have a cup of tea and just relax and get a sense of community. So we call them wellness though, because to your point, it doesn't always have to be a mounted lesson. So we found that it just made sense for us to call them wellness horsemanship instead of
What I was going to say before was, we'll send us a copy of the presentation, and we'll send that out to everybody. We'll have that on our website, and the research,
Perfect.
whatever, like you said, we'll add that to it.
Okay, great.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.